So it's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day to be happy. So we're going to continue with insight number 3 about how to be happy all the time from the perspective of Paramhansa Yogananda, who wrote the book Autobiography of a Yogi. And I'm enjoying revisiting him and his Indian way of bringing things and seeing how can I translate that into the Western world. How can we look at that? And so when we're looking at insight number 3 and how to be happy, it's avoiding the happiness thieves. So it's perfect time because it's almost Thanksgiving, and you know there are energy vampires out there, and they will suck you dry if you let them. Well, there are also happiness thieves that will take away that feeling that we've got. So today we're going to look at this and we're going to start to evaluate them. And anything, here's a general definition, it's anything that separates us from our connection to the infinite robs us of our happiness. Anything that causes us to feel alone, to feel isolated, to feel without hope, to feel not connected, anything that we do that causes that drains us of our happiness, because it's our happiness, it's the state of joy when we're in that perfect state of balance. So I want to describe that. What does that mean to be in a state of balance? It means that you are the observer of your life. That you can look at what's happening and you can see what is perceived as good and what is perceived as not good. And you have no emotional response. That's the state of telos, the state of being in the divine, the being the observer. That is the state of true bliss. That state is like a fleeting moment in our lives. Because if you think about our lives, we're always going between contrasting points. We're going to be challenged and supported and challenged, and things will be going great, and then things will change. That's life. Our job is, okay, the really goods, they're okay, I know I'm experiencing really good, but I know it's not going to always be like that, because that in and of itself will lead to depression. To expect it to be high all the time means that there's nothing but high, and if there's nothing but high, then there's no high. Do you get that? It's that simple. It's like the first time you look at someone who has that energy that you want to connect with, and your eyes just light up. And then 10 years later, you look at them and you go, why aren't I lighting up? And it's because of the contrast that's come into our lives, and we start to see people differently. We don't see them with the infinite possibilities. When you first meet someone, you meet them and all you can think of is, oh my God, I got the eye contact. Oh my God, they're perfect. Oh my God, look at everything about them is beautiful. Everything is this, everything is this. You been there? You ever been infatuated? Yeah, I can see the smiles. And then a year or so down the road, you go, oh shit. How did I see that? And you see, it wasn't that it was, it was that you weren't open to seeing the totality. And so what we've got to come to understand is that every relationship is for the purpose of support and growing us. And we can choose how to be in that relationship with who we choose to be with in every moment. And a lot of times people in our lives for a reason and a season. Very few people stay in our lives longer. And we've got to be able to let them go if they're no longer serving us. I was sharing a story with someone who came from Michigan just a little bit earlier. And I'll share that story because it's one of my favorite stories. When I was young, I was a Wahoolian. I was a rebel. I was a little boy. I was a teenager. I would do anything to make things fun. So when I was 15, I was sent away from home. 15 years old, away from home. No mom and dad, just priests. because I was in the seminary. But we didn't have a priest staying in our dorm room. And the dorm room that we had was a big room like this, about this size. And there were maybe 30 individual beds in it. Nothing but beds. There was a locker room for all your stuff, but they were just beds. So you figure 30, 15-year-olds going to bed. You knew something was going to happen. So we had this one, he was a deacon, I think, at the time in the Catholic faith. His name was Rick Cassidy. And Rick Cassidy was there, and Rick Cassidy faced all sorts of things. I mean, he'd get in his bed, and there'd be Jell-O in his bed. He would, in the middle of the night, 3 of us would come with these big garbage cans of water and just dump them on his head. One day, we knew he had to rush out. We took his bed, his mattress, and we took it and threw it out the window from the third floor of the seminary, out onto the grounds. He knew who did that. He knew that Lee Wolak was the instigator. So we talk about karma coming back and getting you. Jean and I decide that we're going to get married. Jean decided it. I followed. I asked she chased me until I caught her. That's the line she uses on me all the time. Women have powers. I don't understand them yet, but there are powers there. But anyway, we wanted to get married at this church called St. Hugo's. And St. Hugo's is in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. It's right off Telegraph Avenue. It's this magnificent Gothic, really Gothic church, and the front of it's over this beautiful man-made lake, and the grounds are just so, I mean, it is like, if you're going to get married, this is ideal. It's perfect. It's romantic. So we go up to the rectory, and we knock in, and the secretary lets us in, and we're talking to her about it. She says, I think you should speak to the head priest. He's in the gardens and back. Just walk around this way and go. So we go, and we're walking in. And Jean goes, oh, this will be okay. And I look, and I said, ain't happening. And she says, why not? I said, that's Father Rick Cassidy. And sure enough, he knew who I was. You know, here we are, 6 years later. He remembered me. And he gently and lovingly said, well, you're not members of this parish, are you? And I said, not at this time. And he says, then we can't marry you here. But you see how things come around? They always come around. I was happy one minute when I was dumping water and doing all that stuff. Then 6 years later, I wasn't so happy. I really wanted to be married in that church. And I had to come back and see it from balance. Everything is always in balance. We just don't recognize it's in balance. So then we've got to avoid the influence of any habit that leads to our feeling of separation. And let's talk about that. All of our thought processes are habits. They're habits of thinking that we haven't consciously chosen. Most of them have been unconscious. Your habits of sex are unconscious habits brought to you by society. Your habits on religion are unconscious thoughts brought to you by society. Your habits on money are unconscious thoughts brought to you by society. Your habits on relationships are unconscious thoughts brought to you through society. Most of the time, we've not taken the time to formulate it. Is this a habit I'm really choosing, and is it serving my highest interest? So what we're doing at Agape all the time is we're teaching you how to build habits of thinking that are in line with where you want to uniquely be in the world. And it's through that habit that you're creating a mental atmosphere, and that mental atmosphere changes your experience because it attracts to and repels from. Now, the habit of thinking, you can't go thinking something and say, I'm building a new habit, and then go back to the old habit and say, it's okay if I do this for a while. No, you've negated all the work you've done. This is why when you listen to spiritual teachers, they will tell you, we must be persistent and consistent in our spiritual practice, in the habits we're trying to build, because it's through that we get our power. And to be persistent and consistent, we've got to ignore everyone around us because they will try to get us to do what they want us to do. You ever hear that? Everyone wants, basically, most people are unconscious, and they want you to do what they want you to do so they can be happy, and you're living up to it. And no matter what you do, you're never going to live up and make them happy. So give up now. The best thing in a relationship that you can do is to be yourself and to have agreements with your partner and to live from those agreements and know that the reason you're in relationship is to support and grow each other. If you have that as the basis, it's fine. But you are not here to please another human being. Get that thought out of your mind. You're here to be you. It is you, through the law of cause, ordered yourself to be punished. This is Yogananda speaking. So what he's saying, it's you putting into law your thoughts that give you a effect. That effect you will label as either punishment or reward. But it's your thought process. He's saying the responsibility is within you. The teachings that we have here at Agape, which is a part of the Centers for Spiritual Living, which is based off the teachings of the science of mind, which was once called religious science, and I love the term religious science because you're taking spiritual principles and you're proving them for yourself. You're not blindly accepting something, but you're taking the power and proving it. See, that's one of the things I love about this teaching is don't believe what Lee says. Test it and find out if it works for you. We must avoid speaking negative things. When we look at negative side long enough, we absorb those negative qualities and we attract their associated consequences. So I'm going to bed last night. Hop in bed, my wife's there. She says, why did you just go and watch that program right before bed? I chose to ignore answering her. Because she was right. I was watching the documentary on the Vietnam War. I'm in part number 3. Why am I doing that? I want to prove to myself, this is what I've come to understand. This came to me this morning in meditation. I want to prove to myself that when I was in 1969-70, when I was in college at that time and I was marching against the war, I want to prove to myself that my intuition understood what the facts really were. Now that's ego. You hearing that? I don't need to prove that. I need to just trust my intuition, but my analytical mind came in and I just had to remind myself of that. So Stephen, when we go home, let's delete the rest of that series. I don't need to watch any more of it. Because I realized, what am I putting into my mind? Things that are not serving me that I don't want. Why would I continue to do that? I have to choose differently if I want to be happy. So the other thing is worry. Worry separates from happiness. Anyone here worry? Oh, everybody's hands should be going up because worry is a prayer. Do you get that? When you are worrying, you are creating a mental atmosphere that is you're visualizing it, you're visualizing the worst that can possibly happen, and not only are you visualizing the worst that can possibly happen, but you're supercharging it with emotion, and the emotion gives it its power. Oops, screwed again. Anytime you worry, you're attracting more of it. Wow. I think about that, and I think about all the things I've worried about, and I brought them all into my existence. You can experience greater happiness by eliminating all forms of gossip. Right now, if you were to go through your life, let's say this last week, majority of your conversation would have been gossiping, where you're talking about someone else and they're not present. And chances are you weren't talking about how wonderful they were. And then what happens is people feed off each other and go into that type of gossip. That is really a negative energy and it really doesn't serve us. So if we can avoid gossiping, we will be more happy. Because by avoiding gossiping, it means we're not comparing. And what is comparison? The death of joy. Think about that. You're driving your brand new car, the one that you picked out. For me, I picked out this beautiful 2017 Honda Accord Hybrid. I love this car. I've been dreaming about this car for 2 years, and I demonstrated it. But then I'm driving, and I'm at the light, and there's a Bentley convertible. I'm not talking a Bentley. I'm talking a Bentley convertible. Oh my God. See how little hair that's here? It came alive. It said, I want to blow in the wind. And I started to compare it, and all of a sudden I'm saying, ooh, I don't care for this. And I said, oh no, comparison's the death of joy. Oh, then I had to realize I've not spent $250,000, $300,000 on a Bentley. Not that I don't have that, but I didn't spend on it. That's not a value to me. You see, we have to go back and remember, what do we value? Well, that's not a value. We have to understand and be kind. This is really interesting because if we can understand that people are coming from different places that we don't know where anyone's coming in any moment. We don't know what their history is. But if we can just be understanding and listen and be kind, we will attract people to us. Because people want to be with people who are understanding and kind. It's not people who make you laugh. It's not that. That stuff wears off. People want to be with you if you understand, if you're willing to listen, if you're willing to accept, and you treat them with a little bit of kindness. And when you do that, aren't you happy? It brings that state right dead center with you. And we've got to eliminate any and all forms of jealousy. Jealousy is saying, I'm not enough as I am, therefore I have to have everything in this way. So another person can threaten you, an event can threaten you, a person getting a promotion can threaten you. You're jealous. You're saying, I don't have something. And the second we go into I don't have something, we're not happy. And if we keep focusing on what I don't have, we're going to attract more of I don't have. Do you get it? It's a spiral. The spiral keeps going down, 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 down. I don't have my perfect relationship right now. Oh, guess what the universe says? Yeah, and you're not going to have it for a while. Because the universe hears what you're thinking. And I say the universe, I'm talking about that aspect, that creative power that we talk about in God. So we talk about here for you newbies, a creative process. And the creative process is simply this. Visualize a seed planted in soil bursts a plant, right? So if you plant an apple seed into the soil gives you an apple tree. It does not give you a cherry tree or a pear tree. So the seed that you're planting is your mental atmosphere. That goes into what we call the law. The law does not judge, it doesn't condemn, it doesn't say it's good or bad. It produces what you're putting into it. That's the creative process. So as you're thinking, as you build this mental atmosphere, that's what the law hears. There's no punishment. It's giving you exactly what you're putting into it. All you've got to do is change what you're putting into it to get a different result, a different experience. Learn to control your desires and your appetites. You don't want to be a slave to your senses. If you're a slave to your senses, you're unhappy. You want to balance the sensory life. These 5 guys, you know them. They're wonderful. You want to balance that with the feeling of oneness. And the way to do it is to be fully engaged in the experience of the senses, but not be attached to them. Don't be addicted to them. The thing, it's interesting, because today I did a meditation when I got up. I got up early today, as I do every day. I did a meditation about 4:30. I did a 35-minute meditation. And it was a specific meditation. It was Sri Vidya. So I'm doing this to waken the Divine Mother in me, my intuitive nature. Well, I don't come in as early as my son Stephen and my wife Jean do, because I don't want to be a part of the setup, because I want to get into a deeper spiritual practice. So I set my timer for an hour, and I went into a euphoric type meditation where I lost myself in all that is. Then I came out about an hour and 5 minutes. I came out, and I said, whoa, that was really good. And I then said, I don't want to stay there. I want to come into the world and have contrast, so I came here. And when you come into contrast, you're coming from this balanced state into the human state. It's like a dance. It's like that dance where every step is in alignment. I'm not trying to dance with you, Angelo. I want you to know that. But it's like you're doing this dance of spirit and human and spirit. And that's the beauty of moving in and out. In and out. We allow the contrast to come in so that we rise above the contrast. It stimulates desire. We move into the direction of the new desire. We're rising, we get contrast. It either affirms or denies a desire. We rise further into it, we get contrast. You see, contrast is great. It tells us, are we on the path? And the path we're on is the path that we choose. So the key thing is learn to control. You take control of your desires. And here's the last thing I want to talk about today. It's about being patient with yourself. And know that this is a journey. It's not an end result. So many of the times we go, what's that song? I want it and I want it now. That's who we are. We are a now wanting society, and it takes time. The example I use most effectively is, let's take the physical body and weight. If you want to lose 25 pounds, when do you want to lose it? Now. I got a date on Saturday night. I want the 25 pounds gone by next Saturday. Is it going to happen? No. Are we going to be disappointed? Yes. But if I can set the goal, 25 pounds for 1 year, then what? I have to only lose a half a pound a week. Now, a half a pound a week is roughly 1,750 calories. So if I have to lose 1,750 calories a week, that breaks down to what? 250 roughly calories a day. 250 to 300 calories a day. So what do I have to do? Well, if I'm drinking sodas, cut out 2 sodas. Or I can cut out a piece of pie and I can walk for 15 minutes. Now, think about that. Is that extreme? But we fail because we set unrealistic expectations for our lives. If we chunk it down and set a realistic expectation and we give ourselves the state of patience, we achieve everything. Because remember, it takes time to build a new mental atmosphere. And it's the time it takes before it can demonstrate in our lives. So if you know that the power to be happy is in you, and you know that the power to create is in you, and you know that the power is in your word, in your mental atmosphere, then choose today to speak, think, act, and feel in alignment with what feels good for you. What is your unique path? And here's the key. Do not care what anyone else thinks. Because this is your journey. And your journey is perfect for you. Let's pray. I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask that you go to our website, agapecsl.com. Once there, click on the donate button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. Or if you would like, text your gift by simply dialing 972-532-6976. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to you in the world. I would ask that if you like this message, to please subscribe to my YouTube channel under my name, Lee Wolak. Again, I want to thank you for joining me in the Agape community as we learn how to better self-love through conscious living.